Hello and welcome. Hi if you are a first-time viewer who stumbled across the channel. Double hi if you are a returning viewer, and triple hi if you are a returning viewer who has subscribed. We've had quite a few new subscribers in the month of August, which has coincided with our 1990s theme and Britpop, and the Gallagher brothers very kindly arranged a reformation to coincide nicely with that month. So so today's video is all around the godfathers of Britpop. So I'm not talking 1960s bands like the Who, the Kinks, the Beatles, the Stones. I'm talking bands towards the end of the 80s, early 90s who kind of were influential on some of the key players, Noel and Liam up there, and who maybe didn't quite ride the gravy train that came along in 1994, 1995. So there were three kind of bands that Noel in particular has talked about. So obviously the Stone Roses are a massive one. But I've not included them because, to be fair to the Stone Roses, they managed to make their second album at the 1994 end. So they were there in that scene, and at least they made a second album, and sadly split up thereafter, although they did get back together. So they had an act as such. The band that's on the shelf where my finger's pointing is a band called Shack, that were around previously in the 80s under the name Pale Fountains, and are around now. It's Michael Head, but Shack are a brilliant band. Sadly, completely unrepresented on vinyl. That's the only vinyl album of theirs I've got. My favourite album of Shack's is HMS Fable, which I don't believe has ever had a vinyl release. So if we could get that one out, that would be lovely. But again, they were influential, but they did come along towards the end of the 90s and had some greater success on Noel Gallagher's Sour Mash label in the early 2000s. The band I'd like to talk to you about is the greatest band who've only ever released one album, and I'm talking about the Lars. So from Liverpool. So for me, the second best band that Liverpool have ever produced, and that's saying something because Liverpool have produced a huge amount of great music. But this album, and Lee Mavis, who's the songwriter, is for me one of the all-time classic albums of any era. So it's got that lovely 60s kind of even skiffle type of sound. So fans of the Beatles, you'll love this band. But with that modern kind of indie twist that came in towards the end of the 80s. There's not a hint of dance beats or anything like that on this album. It's all about songwriting and the feel of the music, and that therein lies the problem, because the reason there's only ever been one Lars album is that the songwriter, who's a chap called Lee Mavis, and here he is on the cover there, disowned this album pretty much before it was released. It took nearly 3 years to make, with I think 7 different producers being involved as the sessions went along, and in the end the label, which was Godis, which was quite a small label, had to kind of get something out, and Steve Lillywhite got the job, who's a big famous producer, to kind of scrape together the best of what he thought was out there. But the main songwriter and main man of the band absolutely hated the record, disowned it instantly, despite it containing such classics as There She Goes, Timeless Melody. The final track on this, Looking Glass, is one of the best kind of endings to an album. If you like I Am the Resurrection and Champagne Supernova, check out Looking Glass on this. And the final kind of great song on this is another one called Feeling, which absolutely great little kind of skiffly rock song of the early 90s. So if you haven't heard the Lars and you don't know the story, I would urge you to go and check them out. And if you have heard them and have forgotten all about them, they are far more than a one-hit wonder, which sadly is what they're kind of remembered for now with There She Goes. And I think the singer is still kind of earns significant royalties from that song, which is why he probably now is not concerned with making new music. I think there was a brief kind of reunion tour which was very low key in the early 2000s, but sadly nothing since. And obviously we know 2024, well over 30 years since this album was released, and unlikely to get another one. So the Lars, so I'll show you the album because this is a UK original on the Go Discs label. And I'm probably guilty in some of my videos of speeding through albums because I always like the videos not to go on too long, but I'll show you this record just because it is a beaut, one of the jewels of my collection, and these do go for a little penny now, the originals, but it has been reissued, so you can pick it up quite cheaply should you wish, for those that want it, you know. So I'll go through the tracks because there is a small but perfect discography, but there are some other things I'll show you in a minute that are worth checking out as well. So Son of Guns, the opening track, I Can't Sleep. Third track, Timeless Melody, was a single. That's one of my all-time favourites. I prefer that actually to There She Goes. It's such a great song. Liberty Ship, There She Goes, crops up as the fifth track, and then Doldrum. Side 2 opens with the classic Feeling. Way Out, which was the first single. IOU, Freedom Song, Failure, and then, as I've said to you before, Looking Glass. Absolutely brilliant album. So that's the debut. I have got some other things on vinyl which I am losing. Here we go, they are behind me. So I thought I'd got all of the last 12-inch singles, but I've just discovered that I'm missing Way Out. I thought they'd only come out on a 7-inch, but there is a 12-inch, so I might have to do a little bit of Discog searching for that one. But There She Goes, which is by all intents and purposes their second single. Way Out's the first. This did get reissued, so that's the original kind of version. There are some tracks on here that aren't on the album, so Who Knows and Man I'm Only Human, and Come In, Come Out, which is a good song. My favourite single is this one, Timeless Melody. Though this did get issued, but it was actually aborted first time round, but eventually did come out. That's got a song called Clean Profit on the B-side, and Knock Me Down, and a great song called Over. Don't know if you can see that on the camera, but yeah, absolutely brilliant single, and again on the Go Discs label. There She Goes then came out again, so with this very striking white cover, and Freedom Song is on that, different take, and then another great song that isn't on the album called All By Myself. So Over and All By Myself are two absolutely quite haunting songs. I don't know whether it hints at some of the trouble that was going on in the band. And then the final single was Feeling, and that's got different takes of Doldrum, IOU and Liberty Ship, because there were tons of takes of this because obviously they kept re-recording these songs. So the Lars, one of my all-time favourites. If you want to delve a bit deeper into catalogue, I mean, there is just the main album, that's it, that's one album, but it has been done a few times. So there is a remaster of this with some extra songs on. But if you can track this down on eBay, there is a deluxe version, which has the original album, some radio sessions, but the second disc is the Mike Hedges version of the album, which the band rejected. So as I said earlier, Steve Lillywhite ultimately finished it off, but they did a whole kind of raft of sessions with different producers. So Mike Hedges' mix is on the second disc of this, and there's some different tracks on there that didn't make the what came out at the time. So in terms of the producer that were involved, there was John Porter, who did the Smiths' first album. His stuff got kicked into touch. Andy McDonald had a go. His stuff got kicked into touch. I think he was the head of Godis, remember. Mike Hedges kicked into touch. John Leckie, who produced the first Stone Roses album, his stuff got booted into touch. Bob Andrew had a go. I think he was, remember rightly, he was a radio producer. And then another chap called Jeremy Allen also had a go. And then Steve Lillywhite. So it had a really checkered kind of history. So that's worth getting. If you can find this one, this is a 4-disc CD set. Very nice. So this has the discs in the back in those horrible plastic things, which are really hard to get out. One's actually in the CD player at the moment. And then you get a nice kind of booklet that goes through the chronology of the recordings. and like a brief overview of the band's career. But what's good about this is the first disc is the A's and B's, so it's the singles as they were released, plus the B-sides, plus some scrapped singles such as the Timeless Melody unreleased version. It's got some promo takes. The second disc is really good. That's an outtakes disc. I'll put that up there. I don't know if you can see that. But the second disc, I listened to this yesterday, and it's really good. It's got like pretty much all the tracks they did, but in slightly different versions. Again, because there are so many sessions, and it kind of goes through each producer till you end up with the Steve Lillywhite stuff. The third CD has a live concert at the Town and Country Club in May 1989, and then some kind of radio sessions. And the fourth disc has Live at the Marquee in April 1991, which has a good like 21 tracks on that. Good thing with last, they bash songs out really quickly, and it finishes with a radio session from 1991. So that's well worth getting. Talking of radio sessions, the band also did released a BBC in session CD. That's worth getting, and that did get a vinyl release, which I've hidden under here. So that came out, and this was quite a nice release, not long ago actually, in a nice kind of gatefold with some writing on. That one's a numbered one there, and I think this may well be on very luscious, oh it is indeed, very nice green vinyl, so well worth checking out. And if you really want to know as much as you can about this kind of mythical band that obviously Noel Gallagher has name-checked them, the Coral I think were big fans. John Parra was the bassist in the Lars, and he ended up obviously in cast because he kind of it got to the point where he couldn't wait around anymore for Lee Mavers to kind of decide he's happy. This book is well worth getting. I've spent most of yesterday and today trying to find this in the house because I knew I'd got it, and my music books are kind of scattered around behind other books on bookcases because I've got so many of them. But I can't chuck my music books out because they tend to go out of print, and I always never know when I want to go back and read them. So I'm going to give this one another read. But this one came out, I think, in 2003, sorry, on Helter Skelter Publishing. If you can find that one on the old used market, it's well worth thinking, because it goes through in the detail of just, if you like, how somebody can kind of lose themselves in probably a world that I've never inhabited, but I think drugs play a part. But in the search for the perfect sound, he effectively made one album and never ever managed to make anything else. And I suppose you could argue, is it better to make one absolutely brilliant classic album than 10 average albums that no one remembers? But they'll always be immortal, the Lars, but sadly only for that one album. But there are some great tracks that aren't on the album scattered around this one and on the single. So it is worth kind of, if you can find some of the singles, digging them out, because there's a couple of tracks that are really good that aren't on the main album. Couple of CDs that not that essential, to be honest with you. There's one called Lost Lars 84 to 86, and then one called Lost Lars 86 to 87. That one's probably the better of the two, but to be honest with you, they're very much for completists. But I'm such a fan of this band, when these came out I thought, well, I'll dive on them. Don't bother getting those on vinyl because they're taken from cassette recordings, so cheap CD is the way to go if you're interested in those. But the Lars, one of my all-time favourites. They gave us the immortal There She Goes. Sadly, it doesn't look like we'll ever get anything else again, but if you are a fan of, you know, all of that Britpop stuff, the classic 60s songwriting, certainly if you're a fan of the Beatles and Oasis, they are kind of the missing link between the two. So hope you enjoyed that, and as a result of my book searching, there may well be a Britpop book special as a bonus video, because I discovered I've got about 25 Britpop books in amongst the books on music that I collect. So but yeah, go check that out, listen to it with the read it with the music. brilliant band. You will not be disappointed, and I'll see you on the next one. Or maybe I won't. Oh, cat interruption. Hold on. Now the cats have not have not made an appearance for quite some time because we've been in procrastinated negotiations because they discovered that the most popular videos feature a cat, and they have got agents involved, and they want image rights. Have been quite what's the word, a pain. So here he is. So there you go. Cat has turned up right at the death to cause trouble. He doesn't want to go on camera because he's basically saying I'm not paying him enough in tuna. So there you go. Uno Cat, who's joined the party at the end. So hello. And yeah, there you go. Bonus cat interruption, which we haven't had for quite some time. And I'll see you all on the next one. Allegedly, if I can get my thingy that is so what's the word, temperamental to actually turn the video off. So fingers crossed. So yeah.